which is the acceptance in Judea. John 2:23 through 3:21. Now here we're going to see a number of miracles in this section, and the purpose of them is to authenticate Jesus' person and his message, so people would pay attention to what he said about himself and what he has to say. These are particularly signs for the nation of Israel. So it is Israelites that are expected to see certain miracles or signs when the Messiah would come. So watch for this emphasis as we're going through this larger section of paragraphs 32 to 61. After paragraph 61, the purpose is going to change. So we want to be aware of that as we're looking at this, and then watch for that change then at paragraph 61. All right, so in this section, the acceptance in Judea is covered just by John. Let's see what kind of answers we came up with for these questions. First of all, question 29 was a thinking question. What do you think it means that Jesus would not entrust himself to those who believed in his name? That's kind of difficult. Anybody come up with an answer there? This will be for bonus if you have anything that makes sense. Luke?
He knew what men were like they weren't trustworthy.
Yeah, so even though they trusted in him or said they trusted in him, Jesus didn't trust in them. That's kind of the way it is. How many had something like that? Oh, a lot of you did. Okay. Oh, I didn't give you enough credit for being able to think through that. All right. Well, you start off with a bonus point. How much better can it be than that, right? What was that?
No.
Was that a cry of excitement?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Number 30. I was going to say something more about that. No. Lexi distracted me with her enthusiasm. Let's see. Jesus doesn't entrust himself to him. Oh, because sometimes, and we're going to see this later on, that there are times when people say they trust in Jesus, and we see this today, but don't really. They don't follow through. So just because somebody says something doesn't mean that it's actually true inside. Yeah.
Do you believe that people, once they're saved, can lose their faith?
That's a big question, and the terminology you use is so important. So let's see if that is covered in the Gospels as we go along. Okay? See if it pops up anywhere. I think we'll see if it does. Okay. So we'll save that question for when we get to it. Number 30, a thinking question again. What does this statement say about man? What does the statement say about man? Stephen?
Sinful and not worthy.
Sinful and what?
Man is sinful and not trustworthy.
And not trustworthy. Okay, man is sinful and not trustworthy. I think we'll count that one. If you got the bonus on the other one, that would be giving you too much to give you a bonus on this one. All right, any question? You might relate it back to his sinful nature. Makes him untrustworthy, that he's sinful. Stephen said that's good. Number 31, speculate. Does this statement say anything about the belief of these people? And explain. So, I don't know. This was one that I didn't necessarily have any particular answer in mind, but just wanted to see what you might think about it and see if we might have any kind of discussion on it. What do you think, Brenna?
The belief of the people was by sight alone. They did not have a true faith in Jesus. It was just faith among it.
Or it could be that way. You're not saying that all of them weren't believers, right? But you're saying that, see, that's a good point. Did you understand what Brenna's saying there? That if people say that they are believing in Jesus, all you have to go on at that moment is what they say. And you don't really know what's going on inside. So sometimes it takes time to see whether what they said really has been true. Does that make sense? And so that certainly would be true here. Anybody else have something to say there?
I said that they believed in him, they knew he was the Son of God, but they didn't believe on him. They didn't put their full trust in him.
Okay, explain that more.
When Nicodemus was talking to Jesus, and Nicodemus said that they knew he was the Son because of the miracles and stuff, so they like they believed in him, but they didn't. Because then Jesus went on to say like you had to be born again, so they didn't put their trust in him. They just
Okay, let me see if I can summarize for everybody and tell me if this is what you're saying. That people might believe that Jesus is the Son of God, might believe that he's the Messiah, and yet not really be trusting in him.
Yeah.
Not put their full faith in him, and from the standpoint they're willing to give their lives to him. Is that kind of what you're saying? Yeah, that's true, isn't it? There are a lot of people. In fact, one of the frustrating things that I know my wife encountered when she was working in an educational supply store, and sometimes encounters that I've had with people is that they will, if you ask them, about what they believe, they'll believe all the right things, and yet you still know that they don't totally get it. That the change really hasn't taken place inside, even though they say, "Oh yeah, I believe in God. I believe that Jesus was born of a virgin, that he died on the cross for my sins." And they can say they believe all those things, but yet you know that they really haven't committed themselves to Christ, because they also are believing some other things that are not so good. So that's true, and that's something we have to examine ourselves as well as discern in others, but especially examine ourselves to see whether we're in the faith or not. Paul encourages us to do that on several occasions in his letters. Okay, any other comments about 31? I will give you, you guys had good answers. I'll give you a bonus point. Not that you probably need it. Number 32, finally, a regular question. What was the Jewish ruling council called? What was it called? Morgan. Right. Any question there? Next, how did Nicodemus know that Jesus had divine authority? What did he say? How did he know that Jesus was sent from God? What did he say? Zach?
No one can do that you do unless God is within him.
Okay, what did he mean by what you do? To what was he to what did he have reference there? Emma?
miracles.
Yeah, the miracles. Did he say the miracles that you do there? The signs, yeah. And for John, when he used the word sign, he's talking about a miracle, which is a sign. It's like a billboard. Every time Jesus does something, John says, this is a billboard of who Jesus is. All right, so it's by the miracles that he did, or the signs. Number 34, how is this an indictment of the other Jewish leaders mentioned before? Does this relate to the first plural pronoun used in verse 2? Okay, remember the other Jewish leaders, what had they said before? Do you remember? Did you make a connection here? Did you figure out what I was talking about? Emma says no, it was too obscure. What are you doing writing questions like this that don't make any sense? I know you're thinking it. You don't want to say it, but that's what you're thinking, right? And Griff agrees. Okay, so did anybody figure out what I was talking about here? Okay, do you remember earlier when the Jewish leaders asked Jesus for a sign? I mean, I think we just talked about this yesterday. Where was that?
The temple.
In the temple. They wanted him to give a sign as to how he had the authority to do what he did the day before and driving out the money changers and all that. All right. So the temple leaders had demanded a sign, but when Jesus actually did a miracle, they rejected it. Nicodemus, however, is saying, the miracles that we've seen you do are an indication that you are from God. Now, he uses the first personal plural pronoun here, which indicates what? What does that tell us about Nicodemus's mission here? All right, another obscure question. What is you know what I mean by first person plural pronoun? What is the first plural? What is that pronoun? We. What does we indicate if you're not French?
Our group,
What?
the whole group.
There's a group of people. Now, do we know what group of people that is? It could be. It could, but that sort of seems I mean, does that seem out of character for the Sanhedrin
Yeah.
to say, we know you must be from God? Because they're kind of fighting against that idea, aren't they? So, and we can't know for sure here. But Nicodemus is not alone. So there must have been a group of people within the Sanhedrin, because, by the way, Nicodemus is a member of the Sanhedrin. There may have been a group of people there that were saying, you know, I'm not so sure the rest of these guys are right. I think there may be something to this Jesus. You see how that may be the case here? And so Nicodemus goes, and why does he go at night? Is that one of the questions? I don't want to
No.
jump ahead. Why does he go at night? If that's the case, why is he going at night? Griffiths, your hand up? Or are you just writing in the air? Okay. Why is he going at night? Why do you do anything at night? Jordan?
He was afraid of being seen.
Yeah. He doesn't want to be seen. The next question is, he doesn't want to be seen by whom? Who doesn't he want to see him going and talking to Jesus? Well,
Probably the rest of the Sanhedrin.
yeah, that would be a logical thought, don't you think? That he doesn't want the other guys to know that he's talking to Jesus. It's like that guy who's a member of a gang in the streets of some city, kind of sneaking into the church. Doesn't want his buddies to know that he's gone. Yeah.
He probably didn't want the other people to see him too, like not just the Sanhedrin, because then like the people might stop believing it, and then the Sanhedrin would find out and be like, how did
Yeah. If anybody sees him, it's going to spread, right? But especially, I think, and again, I'm speculating here, that he doesn't want the rest of the Sanhedrin to know. All right. So verse 34 we'll just chalk up as being something that we can learn a little bit from, but not find the answer to. All right, number 35. Why would this statement be a blow to Nicodemus' theology? Okay, what statement? I didn't tell you what statement, did I? Did you know what statement I was talking about? Okay, I got to write a note to myself. Be more clear. The statement that you must be born again. All right, so just look back, look and see what you think. When he said, because he right after he comes there, it says, Rabbi. Remember, notice he calls him Rabbi. Well, we know you're a teacher who comes from God. No one could perform the miracles, miraculous signs you're doing if God were not with him. And in reply, Jesus declared. Now, notice Jesus doesn't say, "Thank you very much for the compliment. You show a lot of insight." He just jumps right into it and says, "I tell you the truth. No one can see the kingdom of God unless he is born again." Now, the question is, why would this statement be a blow to Nicodemus' theology? Think about it, and we'll talk tomorrow. Yeah.